Welcome to Dose of Social, your recipe for social media success. I'm Lindsay Mauk,
I'm Kayla Pearlstein.
and this is
Jealous
Dose
of
of
socials.
Social.
Oh, that was new. So I am very excited to welcome today's guest. Not only is she one of our clients, but she is also a very good friend. We like to say friend, sister, cousin of mine. We have Javaneh Hemmat of Hummus Chick and now Wild Lotus. Java, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you all.
So we're going to jump right in. Your brands are deeply rooted in story, emotion, and experience. So, how do you discover, or how did you discover the story you wanted to share for Hummus Chick and now Wild Lotus?
I stumbled upon the story. What happened before the story was my identity and how my identity took me to having these experiences that led to the opportunity. And then that opportunity really was sequencing words and emotions. I didn't know that I was becoming a storyteller. I didn't know I was telling a story. I just had this deep yearning within to share my recipes with my community. And then when people were asking, well, why are you doing this? Or how did this happen? And I would tell them the events that occurred. They were like, that's an incredible story. And it intersected with a time where storytelling and brands having a moving background or story uh, was being highlighted. So I was really in the right place at the right time. And then I realized the power of the story. So really, it was all a serendipitous way of finding my voice through that.
And
That's
I've
a
always enjoyed listening to you tell stories, whether it's Hummus Chick, Wild Lotus, or just in general, because you do have such a great way that you speak and present yourself. And I could listen to you talk all day.
You're so kind. Thank you.
So, for those listening who haven't heard of Hummus Chick before, can you tell us a little bit about your story and what some of those stories that you just mentioned that are resonating with people? What are those? What were some of the first stories that you shared that you found were really resonating with your audience on social media?
Absolutely. So going back to the identity and the events that occurred was that I grew up in United Arab Emirates to Persian pioneers, and I came to United States for university. And the way we ate food growing up was very simple. Lots of herbs and plants, and um, the style of cooking was mostly slow and ceremonious. And this was like a daily thing. Um, and then, so when I came to the States and I was eating cafeteria food, everything was loaded with salt, fat, and sugar. And immediately my energy would crash. And, as a college student, I was like, this is the food I'm eating. It was a very simple formula. So naturally, I was like, I need to learn to cook because I really wanted to show up with this opportunity that I had. I had traveled across the world to now come to this college and I wanted to show up. So back then, before Instagram and YouTube and learning to cook for one person, most recipes had a yield of 4 to 6. And that was a catalyst for me to uh, cook for friends and invite neighbors, newfound classmates. And very quickly through the process of cooking, I realized that when you're intentional and you pour in this loving energy in what you do, whether it's cooking or knitting or whatever it may be, it creates an emotion that connects with others. And when you offer it, you're now building a bridge to friendship, a bond. So that became a thing. I don't really drink, I don't party at clubs or bars. So people would just come over to my loft and I would cook and we would just tell stories and exchange ideas and learn, cute little words from each other's languages. I used to speak English differently than I do now. So there was a lot of people making fun of the way I would say something and it was a whole, inside joke. And so, but food connected us. I graduated from college, I went into corporate, and then within a few years, I was laid off and I went back to school to study chemistry with the hopes of going to medical school. But that was such an overwhelming undertaking. And so I decided to go on a surfing trip to just reflect and decide what to do with my life. So I was on a surfboard and there were no waves, thank God, because I'm a terrible surfer. And I was actually in Laguna Beach, very close to you, Lindsay. And I was sitting on a surfboard. It was just me, the blue sky, this big ocean. And I was like, what is it that I want to do? I want this thing where we connect with each other. And I have this big passion for humans. And I kept reflecting on the time of cooking and coming together. And this was before the food movement was even a thing. And immediately I was like, hummus chick. Hummus in Arabic, hummus or hummus in Hebrew means chickpeas. And I'm a chick. And it was sort of like a play on words. And out of nowhere, this wave came. I got on the board, I crashed the shore, and I came back to Nashville. I had $40 in my pocket from my tips from Starbucks that I used to work at. And I got a business license. I had a few ingredients, and I made 6 Tupperwares of hummus. And that sort of gave me an opportunity to go into a commercial kitchen. Within a few weeks, I went into the farmer's market and I kept selling out week after week. And I was like, wait a second, this is a business. So after that, within a year and a half, we were in Whole Foods, and the rest is history.
And her hummus is top tier. Like if you're a fan of Sabra, you're gonna quickly get over it. It's just very different. It's what I grew up with, which is why I love it so much.
Such an incredible story. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. What year was this when you had the on the surfboard revelation, which by the way I love because I'm a surfer too, and I so many things come to me out in the water, so I love that. What year was that?
Yes, 2012. And by the time everything sort of formed together, I went full time 2014. Yeah,
Props to you. That's amazing.
thank you.
Java, why do you think founder-led storytelling matters so much in today's social media landscape?
I think basically being an entrepreneur is that whether we're creating a product or service, we're in the business of humanity. And ultimately, we're not buying products because we want the product, although sometimes that product matters to us. It's because we want to either connect with somebody that made it, and we believe in them, we want to invest with them, we want to connect with them. And I have, even in my personal life, when I purchase something from somebody that I know, I take better care of it. It becomes very important to me. And that's how repeat business happens. Now, lots of amazing things that I've purchased or services that I've had that I've kept going back for it over and over. But we're living in such an independent world now in terms of business where the maker becomes a part of that product, or I should say that the product becomes part of, I don't think there's a symbiotic relationship there. So showing different sides of ourselves has, or at least when I do that, really shines through, and it helps me. It kind of like boomerangs back to me to wanting to improve my recipe, my systems, my partnerships. So it sort of like expands the meaning and the way we operate as founders.
Yeah, and I think especially with working with you and some other brands, with having the founders show their face more, that's typically the content that performs the best. And Lindsay, I don't know if you've seen that with your clients, but um, we try to get founders in front of social as much as possible because people, to Java's point, people want to connect.
No, absolutely. I mean, a founder showing his face on social always outperforms anything else. And I think that that's the biggest challenge for these founder-led brands is because that's not necessarily the skill set or like the first thing a founder wants to do is get on camera and be comfortable getting on camera. I mean, there's a reason there's that social media like reel that's so popular of like when the social media person comes in and like they
Yes.
come in and like everyone's hiding. That's people's first like reaction with social media. It's like, oh, I don't want to be on camera. Like, oh, I don't look good, or I'm nervous or whatever. But like that's the content that resonates with people. And so it is very challenging as a founder, especially a bootstrap founder, if you're not willing to get in front of the camera and put your face out there and be in front of your audience, because then it's like, well, how are people going to build that connection and build, like you said, that bridge to your brand if
Right.
they don't have that understanding, they don't understand your story, they don't feel invested in your story.
And that's one thing we love about working with Java is she knows she needs to show up for content, but she also knows how to do it on her own. So if we send her certain reels to do, she'll do it. Or she's like, I'm planning this day and this day for content. And so she has, time blocks for that as well. But I've even shown her silly reels and I'm like, what if we do something like this? And she's very open to doing things, which is awesome. And we love that.
Yeah, no, I love that too. And one of my clients who was a previous guest on Dose of Social, Lizzie Curtis from Society Nautique, she's the same
Mm.
way. She's really great at doing the founder led videos and sharing about both her personal and professional life. And that is what people connect to. Like they connect to her as a mom, as a business owner, like following along on her journey. So I think it is really important to show that side of yourself, but then there's also things that you may want to keep private. So, Java, how do you decide what parts of your life you share or your parts of your personal story you keep private versus what you share publicly on social media?
I look at it in a couple of different ways. The first inkling is, how does this really benefit my audience? And is this something that will benefit them? Is this something that they would care about? For example, I was invited to be part of this project that invited this massive puppet called Little Amal that was traveling around the country. And I was part of the project to welcome Amal and their team that was operating to Nashville, Tennessee. And it was such an awesome project. And I had such a fun time with it. It was an incredible learning lesson for me on how art works, and these massive installations travel around the country. It was really fun. But it just did not connect with my Hummus Chick content. It did okay on my personal, so that wasn't a good connection. And then the other thing that I want to be mindful of is, what am I putting on my audience? If I'm grieving through something, if I'm going through a hard time, is it their responsibility to carry this for me? Because I find myself, when I'm following some accounts, and of course I love them, and something difficult happens and they share it, of course I empathize and I want to be there for them. But within a few scrolls, there's a big milestone or a fantastic celebration, and now there's such a fast shift in my emotions from grieving and empathizing to now celebrating. And although that's important, but because the algorithm is moving so fast and we're scrolling so quickly, that shifting of gear of emotions just doesn't pace very well for Hummus Chick brand. And so I've decided what emotions I want my audience to feel, which is like this light, joyful, appetizing, warm feel whenever they watch my content. So if, let's say, I'm going through something hard in life and I call Kayla about it, I don't necessarily need to connect it to the Hummus Chick content.
We're always
Yeah.
light and fun over at Hummus Chick.
That's true.
No, I think that's really important too. And obviously, it's such a personal decision, right? Like as a founder, like, well, what do I want to share? And like, should I share more? Or should I not? But I think the answer really lies in a testament to like, what is the journey that you want to share? And like, what do you feel like is most true to yourself and really provides that value to your audience, like you were saying?
I also feel that we are now in a chapter in social media that we know the person behind or in front of the camera has more to their life than this one thing. It used to be that we would just see the successes of the content creator or the founder or the person that's showing up on camera. But now we're shifting to understanding we're seeing a little snippet of their life. And the people in my community, which a lot of them are becoming real life friends, off camera, they get to see so many different parts of my life, which is just as big as their own lives. And but I feel like that's shifting. Are you guys seeing that too in social, where we are understanding there's more to this one person than, let's say, their happiness or their marriage or their food business?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I always tell like clients and people that when I talk to them about social media is like your stories are probably only reflecting like 1% of your life, like what actually is going down in your life or your business. It just happens to be that one thing you choose to share for the day. Like think about how many moments happen over the span of 24 hours, right? Like you're not just sitting there like posting, right? You're picking like, okay, I'm picking this for a reason, like what I want to share. And I think before I don't feel like there was that knowledge of like, oh yeah, like that's just one aspect or social media is a highlight reel. But I think now people are a lot more open and understand. Like I know a lot of content creators who do not show their spouse on camera. They don't show their families on camera. And whereas before I think people would think like, what? Why don't they show their spouse on camera? Like that's not right, or that's not right to not show their kids. But now I think it's much more widely accepted and like people appreciate that and respect it from coming from these creators now, whereas before I don't think it was really understood.
Yeah, I would agree. Java, let's leave our listeners with a little tip. So, for founders who feel uncomfortable being the face of their brand, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
First of all, I totally get it. I am, believe it or not, very camera shy. I don't like to be in front of the camera. But practice in front of the mirror. Talk to yourself, look into your own eyes. It's a very emotional journey. Being in front of the camera doesn't become performative anymore. And I think that's, if you take away the performance of being in front of camera and just as if you're just speaking to yourself in the mirror, um, it becomes personal. And that ties into the personal question, Lindsay, right? And then practice, keep filming yourself until you find the right rhythm, and uh, don't be afraid to delete and to re-record. That's why we have these tools at our fingertips, and also to show ourselves some grace, and that regardless of how you show up, you're usually harder than on yourself than the audience. I remember the first few times that I posted myself on camera, and it was like eating something on camera. There was just such a huge welcoming and warm reception to that, while I was very critical of myself.
Mm.
And so sometimes taking that voice or decreasing the volume on that could open up so many more opportunities for yourself. So practice, look in the mirror, have your friends, show it to your friends before posting it even. I know Kayla and I do that, where I'm
Yeah,
like, hey, what do you think of this?
Java will send me a reel and she's like, it took me 30 times to do it, but I finally got it.
Yeah, the Yap videos they still take me some time.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you might not get it on the first try. It also doesn't need to be perfect. People want to relate to you, which
Yeah.
should be real.
Java, can you tell our listeners what the Yap videos are?
Yeah, I talk to the camera as if I'm speaking to a friend. And I'm telling them, like, one of the few ones that I just recently did was like history of hummus.
Mm.
So, how hummus came to be. Um, this morning's video was really just telling or introducing my new brand, Wild Lotus Snacks, and how it came to be and what it is. And usually these videos for me are about 1 minute. The longest I go is about a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I can yap for longer, clearly, but I try to contain myself.
That's great. I mean, I think it's like working a muscle, right? Or like working out at the gym. It's like the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. And yes, it
Mm-hmm.
may take multiple tries to get it right. And it's a trial and error and it's a work in progress. And I think it's so great that you're that you're doing that and doing the Yap videos. That's awesome.
I also want to share, I am still very new to it. I still need a lot of practice. And I think we all know that the platforms and the algorithms are shifting so fast and we have to keep learning. So the learning never ends, which I think is a really fun part of it. But yeah, I'm still learning. The learning won't stop.
Well, the learning's always going to be happen because social media is constantly evolving. So I think that's always going to be the case in
Yeah.
this field. So along with learning, there are mistakes and challenges along the way that can happen in social media and especially in CPG. Seen a lot just even recently on like ingredients and testing and whatnot. But what are some common mistakes that you see CPG brands making when it comes to creating content for social media?
Couple of things, which is one I'm very guilty of, and that is being inconsistent. But the other thing when it comes to CPG is, especially food, is that we're constantly selling features of what we're selling. For example, protein had such a huge moment, and now fiber maxing is a whole thing. And in something that I do and something that Kayla and I talk about a lot is like our customers know how to eat. Like they know what they need. Do I need to tell them, hey, try this because of the fiber or because it has high protein? Or that, just constantly selling the feature of the product as if I'm trying to solve their problems. I know that the lane I want to be in is that I want to bring them connection and happiness. And if they can take that with them, then I'm happy with that. But if not, then, thank you for stopping by. So I think knowing what you want to offer and try not to become so clinical about that.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. Also just like showing like how the product it can be incorporated into your life. Like what recipes can you make with it? Like you don't need to sell like the ingredients so much. I mean, unless there are certifications, right? Like I do think those are important to shed a light on, but yeah, like overstating like it's high in protein, high in
Yeah.
fiber, but like focus on like okay, let's show how you can eat it with a wrap or like different recipes you can use this with. I think like for the brands that I work with in CPG, that tends to do the best on social.
Oh,
Yeah, and
absolutely. Yeah.
that's one of the great thing Java also does is she develops these recipes. We had I think the first shoot we ever did with her was a 6-hour shoot because we made 3 or 4 recipes. And we were, laughing and having fun and eating lunch, but it was a lot of fun to see the different ways you could use hummus or tahini in your daily life. And you can find all those on her website.
It's great.
So, Java, I know we've talked a lot about content creation with texture, light, movement, composition. What are some simple ways small brands can elevate their content without a huge production budget?
I mean, luckily, our phones itself can be a whole studio. I just use a simple iPhone. If I were to start, I would say use natural light and learn how natural light, how what you look like in natural light, learn your angles, how your product looks in natural light, what angles your product look good in natural light, and just play with it. I think it all comes down to experimenting. I don't think I can, create a formula that fits everyone. Everybody's a little different. And also to see your perspective of yourself and your product with light and movement and how you use it, how it fits you, whether it's you're wearing it or eating it or sharing it. Um, all the different things that interacts with your body and somebody else's life and showing that big range is a big thing for me. That's what I would start with.
Yeah,
Yeah, great tips and never underestimate the power of natural light
and an iPhone
and an
or a phone.
iPhone.
That's right.
And this I mean a stand too is helpful, I think, like having
Mhm.
some sort of iPhone stand.
Oh, Java
Oh,
will show up with a
totally.
bag with like 3 different
Yes.
tripods, her phone. Like she's always prepared.
There's one in my bag. There's a little compact one that goes in my purse. Yeah. You never know when you want to film content.
Yeah. Always be prepared.
Java, you are a social media manager's dream founder.
She really is.
So talking about content and like I love how on it you are with your content. What types of content have been most effective at driving engagement and community for both Hummus Chick and for your new brand, which would love to hear a little bit more about that too.
Believe it or not, eating and laughing. Those two things sometimes together create such a spike in engagement. And I never knew that that simple human thing is really the advantage that I have. And there have been so many beautiful content that are so highly curated and professional cameras and video and all beautifully edited that didn't engage as well as when I'm just like eating and just I think maybe people can see how much I enjoy what I just made and they're like, I think I want to make that, or I'm curious what this is. Maybe it involves curiosity, and maybe a little inspiration, or I hope it inspires. But those are the two things from everything that I've done.
Eating and laughing, I love it. I mean, food is all about community, like you talked about at the beginning of this episode, food creating community and conversation. And so I feel like we've just gone full circle in a way of just like your story and like what's performing best on social media. Like you are staying true to those roots, and that's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Java, we've got 2 more questions before we wrap up. So looking back on your journey, building Hummus Chick and now Wild Lotus, what marketing lesson do you wish you had learned sooner?
I wish that I would have documented more and I would have filmed more of just my journey, just to have for myself really, and to eventually, to share it. Um, but again, this goes back to how most of us are, just not taking the time or feeling too vulnerable to film and to photograph. Like for example, I wish I had the picture of me on the beach with my surfboard.
Yeah.
And if there was one regret, it was like I didn't even think about that back then, like 12, 13 years ago. Because I was just like traveling solo and just doing my own thing. And I don't think smartphones weren't even as big as they are today. But yeah, the documenting, because that is one of the biggest ways to market.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think I've also told a lot of clients now and previously, like, also make a big deal out of everything. If it's a big deal to you, whether other people think it's small or whatever it is, make it a big deal. Like, document everything to your point and, shout it from the rooftops.
I have those same thoughts, and I mean, I'm a social media person, right? And I feel like I didn't document enough of my journey when I started my company. I felt like, oh, I had to get to this certain milestone and then I'll document. And like I should have been more meticulous along the way. So I think that, like you said, that is a common thing, even for people who work in social media and marketing.
Yep.
So Java, you've shared such an incredible story with us today. Thank you so much for being a guest on Dose of Social. If our listeners walk away remembering just 3 things from this episode about founder storytelling and building a brand online, what would you want those takeaways to be?
I would say to invest in yourself, whatever that looks like, whether it's nourishing, movement, learning to knit, whatever it may be. Number 2 is to know that there's always a shift and it's okay to change, it's okay to evolve and to welcome it. And number 3 is we would love for them to be seen. We love seeing you, and everybody deserves to be seen. So even if somebody thinks their story is not as important, I promise it is.
I love that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And if our listeners want to find you online or try your products, where can they find you on social media and where can they find your products in stores?
On Instagram, you can find Hummus Chick at Hummus Chick, or now at Wild Lotus Snacks. You can also find us on TikTok at I Love Hummus Chick. We're also on YouTube. Kayla knows our YouTube handle. I don't think I know it. Maybe it's at Hummus Chick.
Yeah.
And if you go to our website, hummuschick.com, we have a list of stores that you guys can shop from.
And Java let me know before we recorded that for those of you listening who are based in Southern California, Hummus Chick is available at Mother's Market. What? All right. Well, Java, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us again. Thank you all for listening to Dose of Social. We're out.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.